The file landed on my desk with a thud. Case closed. The official story was that a robbery had gone horribly wrong, ending in the tragic death of the wealthy philanthropist, Mr. Alistair Finch. The suspect, a small-time crook named Jimmy Fingers Malone, had been caught red-handed with Finch's wallet and a bloody knife. An open and shut case, my captain called it. But as I stared at the photo of the crime scene, a nagging feeling settled in the pit of my stomach. Something wasn't right. Malone was a petty thief, a pickpocket. He wasn't a killer. Sticking a knife in someone, it wasn't his style. He was clumsy, nervous, and scared of his own shadow. The kind of guy who'd drop the loot and run if someone so much as coughed. But the report said he fought back, a desperate struggle. It just didn't add up. Everyone else was ready to celebrate another solved case. But I couldn't let it go. That little voice, the one that's kept me alive for 20 years on the force, was screaming at me. So, I decided to take another look, unofficially of course. I went back to the Finch mansion, a grand old place overlooking the city. The crime scene tape was gone, but the ghost of the event still lingered. I walked through the study where it happened. Everything was pristine, almost sterile, except for the faint outline of where the body had been. The official report mentioned a violent struggle, overturned furniture, broken lamps, the works. But looking around now, the room was immaculate. The cleaning crew had been thorough, sure, but a struggle like that leaves deeper scars. Scuff marks on the floor, dents in the wall. There were none. That was the first red flag. The scene had been staged. But why? To frame Malone. That seemed to elaborate for a simple robbery. I started looking at the details the initial investigators had missed. They were so focused on Malone, they'd overlooked the smaller, more subtle clues. I noticed a small, almost invisible scratch on the heavy oak desk. It was fresh. Near it, on the plush Persian rug, was a tiny, shimmering speck. I knelt down, carefully picking it up with a pair of tweezers from my pocket kit. It looked like a shard of glass, but not from a broken window or a lamp. It was curved, delicate. It looked like it came from a pair of eyeglasses. Now, Jimmy Malone had perfect 20/20 vision. He'd never worn glasses in his life. So, whose were they? I reviewed the witness list. The only people present in the house that night were Finch himself, the maid, the butler, and Finch's much younger wife, Eleanor. The maid and butler were elderly and had been with the family for decades. They were simple, functional spectacles. But Eleanor, she was known for her expensive, designer fashion. I pulled up her file. Eleanor Finch, a former model who had married into money. She was the sole beneficiary of Alistair's massive fortune. The motive was there, clear as day. But motive alone isn't proof. The investigators had questioned her, of course. She had a solid alibi. She claimed she was at a charity gala across town and had witnesses to prove it. She seemed genuinely devastated by her husband's death. Her performance was flawless. A grieving widow, but actresses can be convincing. I decided to pay Mrs. Finch a visit. She greeted me at the door, dressed in elegant black, her eyes red-rimmed. She offered me tea and spoke about how much she missed Alistair. I played along, offering my condolences, telling her I was just tying up some loose ends. As we spoke, I steered the conversation toward the night of the murder. She recounted her alibi perfectly, listing the names of prominent city figures she'd spoken to at the gala. Then, I casually asked, "Mrs. Finch, I notice you're not wearing your glasses today. Do you only need them for reading?" She froze for just a second, a flicker of panic in her eyes before it was replaced by a composed smile. "Oh, these old things," she said, gesturing vaguely to a pair of designer frames sitting on a nearby table. "I only wear them occasionally. My eyesight is perfectly fine." I walked over to the table and picked them up. "May I?" I asked. I held them up to the light. On the right lens, near the edge of the frame, was a tiny, minuscule chip. A chip that would produce a shard of glass exactly like the one I found on the rug. "It must have been terrifying for you," I continued, not looking at her. to come home and find all that chaos. The official report mentions a significant struggle. Furniture overturned, things broken. It must have been a mess to clean up. Her composure began to crack. Yes, it was dreadful. The police, the mess. It was a nightmare. That's the strange part, I said, finally turning to look her in the eye. There was no mess. The room was staged. The furniture was deliberately overturned after the fact, just like the robbery was staged. Malone was just a convenient scapegoat, wasn't he? Someone you paid off to take the fall, to be found with the wallet so the police would look no further. Her face went pale. The grieving widow was gone, replaced by a cold, calculating woman. "You're insane," she whispered. "Am I?" I held up the small evidence bag containing the glass shard. "This little piece of your designer glasses tells a different story. It puts you at the scene, not at the gala. You had a stand-in, didn't you? A friend who looked enough like you to fool people at a crowded party. You killed him, Eleanor, and then you tried to build the perfect alibi, but you got one tiny detail wrong. You left a piece of yourself behind. I knew then I had her." The struggle wasn't between Finch and a clumsy thief. It was between a husband and a wife. He had likely discovered her plan, or perhaps an affair, and confronted her. She hadn't planned for a fight. In the scuffle, her glasses were knocked, a tiny piece breaking off, unnoticed. After she had killed him, she coolly and calmly rearranged the room to look like a robbery gone wrong, planted the evidence on a desperate man she could easily manipulate, and went about creating her alibi. It was almost the perfect crime. Almost. But in my line of work, almost is what gets you caught. The tiniest detail, the smallest oversight, can unravel the most elaborate lie. The case of Alastair Finch was officially reopened. Jimmy Malone was released, and Eleanor Finch was charged with murder. The captain called it brilliant detective work. I just called it listening to my gut, because sometimes the most obvious answers are the ones people try hardest to hide, and the truth is always there, waiting in the details, for someone willing to look. Thanks for watching. If you love a good mystery, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a new investigation. See you in the next one.